Hello traders and investors, welcome to the week that was by Zerodha Varsity, where we bring you up to speed with what's happening in the markets this week, and that too under 5 minutes, so let's begin. First of all, let's have in our prayers the people who died because of landslide in Wayanad, Kerala Tuesday morning, and all other places which are facing the wrath of nature. Please do come forward and contribute in any way you can. Now let's talk about the Indian market, starting with the quarterly results. First, we're going to talk about Zomato. So Zomato in this quarter delivered food and grocery worth 15,000 crore, which was 53% more than the last year's same quarter. Talking about their revenues, there was an increase of 74% driven by Blinkit, which is their quick commerce business. It seems as if that Zomato was earning more per order that they did in this quarter. And talking about their profits, which was 253 crores as compared to 2 crores last year, same quarter, and the stock was up by 3.7%. Next, we're going to talk about three auto sector company results that came up, starting with Maruti Suzuki. So Maruti Suzuki's revenue increased by 10% and their profits increased by 48% on YOY basis. But when we talk about their volume sales, that only increased by 5%. Which means that Maruti Suzuki was actually earning more for every car that they sold in this quarter, and the stock was up by 1.7%. Now let's talk about Mahindra & Mahindra. For them also the revenue increased by 10%. But when we talk about their volume sales in different segments, so in that case, the utility vehicle volume sales increased by 24%. But when we talk about light vehicle volume sales and three-wheeler volume sales, they declined. But if we talk about the farm equipments, that was steady around 5%. Talking about the operating PAT for the company, that increased by 20%, but there was a decline in their net profit by 4% because of exceptional item, and maybe this was the reason that stock was down by 2.8%. Next, we're going to talk about Tata Motors, whose revenue increased by 6%. Thank you to JLR for a good show that they put up. But the company's profits increased by 72% on the account of favorable exchange rate, lower interest rate, and softer commodity prices. But when we talk about their volume sales, then in that case, the passenger vehicle had seen a decline of 1% and there was a decline of 14% in the EV sales. Now that we are on EV, I also want to tell you that there was a survey which was conducted that showed that 51% owners of EV want to switch back to diesel and petrol cars. And the reason for the same is the charging anxiety. And this has, kind of weakened the sentiment among the Indian population for EV vehicles. Along with that, there is a slowdown in EV adoption policy globally. Now let's talk about Aditya Birla Group, and there are two things that I want to talk about. First one is that Ultratech Cement is set to acquire India Cement's 33% stake for 4,000 crores. Mind you, Ultratech Cement already has 22% stake in the company. Now the reason for having further acquisition is that they want to have a strong hold in the southern part of the country. But hold your horses, Chennai Super Kings is not a part of this transaction. It will still be under N. Srinivasan and his family. And the next thing that I want to talk about Aditya Birla Group is that they have launched a new business called Indriya, which is basically a jewellery business and will be in a direct competition with Titan, Tanishq, Reliance, Kalyan, etc. Now let's talk some numbers. So FII by far in 2024 have pumped up somewhere around 1.4 lakh crores as compared to 2.4 lakh crores in last year 2023. And we have to talk about Nifty 50 this week because it touched the landmark value of 25,000. Good news for the Indian investors. So this was all about Indian markets. Let's see what's moving the markets globally, and I want to talk about two major economies which is also home to the reserve currencies, and they have been seeing some central bank action that I want to explain, but let me give you a backstory first. So for the longest time, Bank of Japan have maintained their interest rate at 0% and US Fed have hiked their interest rate by over 5%. So what many currency traders were doing, they saw an opportunity here where they were buying cheap Japanese yen and they were investing in high yielding US dollar denominated assets so that they can make some profits. But this gravy train is coming to a halt. Why? Because the Bank of Japan have increased their interest rate from 0% to 0.25% first time since 2007, and even their stock market was down this Friday by 5%. Whereas in case of US Fed, they have not cut down their interest rate by far, but there is a 100% anticipation that they will do it in the month of September. So what is happening is that Japanese interest rate is going up, whereas US is planning to cut down their interest rates, so the opportunity to trade might shrink. But here's a fun trivia that I want to tell you. So many observers notice that US Fed Chair Jerome Powell has been wearing a purple tie for all Fed meetings. It is kind of an indication that the interest rates are not going to change, and many are anticipating for September month for him to wearing a different color tie. But jokes aside, let me tell you a last news for this wrap-up, and that is that 160 of S&P 500 companies have delivered their reported earnings for this quarter, but we are going to talk about two of them, that is McDonald's and Starbucks, because their same-store sale is declining. Now, why this metric is important for a cafe or a eatery business? Because if the company's revenue is increasing because they're adding up more stores, which means that the same-store sales is declining, which means that you need more assets to increase your revenue, and more assets would require more capital that can harm the profitability of the company. So this was all for this week. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.